everyone. Thank you so much for coming tonight. I am Jessica Sweeney. I am class of 2004. I was civil engineering here, and I am an officer for the Hudson Mohawk chapter, our local chapter. We had recently done a survey within our chapter to see what types of things alumni would like to see, and educational events was one of them that was way up there. So this is really our first kickoff event to some educational topics. So I'm very pleased to introduce Phil Laurie. I have seen his presentation and this is wonderful, so I'm so excited to have him here. He's come from New Jersey. Phil is an alumnus of the class of 1974 from the School of Science. He has been active both in the New Jersey chapter, where he has been an officer for 25 years, and on the RIA board, where he served for over a decade. He has earned various alumni awards, including the Director's Chair, Alumni Key, and the Albert Fox Demers Medal. He was the second Rensselaer Fellow from the Chemistry Department. For the past 40 years, Phil has been developing and implementing global strategies for sales, information technology, finance, marketing, and operations. Currently, a senior director at SAP, his focus is on improving its sales team's ability to reach clients who will benefit from our cloud technology. Hannah, BJ.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Onboard database hardware and evolving mobile solutions. As part of the global customer operations sales tools and technology team, he developed a portfolio of mobile applications to support internal customers. Phil's passion is to implement technology to make life simpler, but also to accomplish improvements in society. He has personal interest in aiding children in need through volunteer activities. He has hosts 20 foster children and is a court-appointed special advocate for children in New Jersey. So please join me in welcoming Phil. Thank you, Phil.
See if the technology guy can get the technology to work. Looks like it's warming up. And it is warming up, so the technology is working, it just needs to, it won't fall out too quickly. Well, thank you all for coming. I am very comfortable with the presentation, and I'll explain why in a minute or two. But that means that if you have a question in the middle, I do not mind if you interrupt me. So even though we are being filmed, don't worry about that. I think it would be much more interesting if I miss a point that you think is important, please stop me. The first question is, can you hear me in the back of the room, or do I have to shout louder? Great, it's good acoustics in the room. This presentation is an adaptation of something that I developed in conjunction with LinkedIn and with some other social selling agenda products and tools that we're looking at rolling out at SAP. It is aimed originally for the sales force, but I found that it would be very useful in supporting people who might also be looking for career changes. Because in reality, everyone knows that when you are looking for a job, you're selling something, you're selling yourself. And so the same tools and techniques that are useful in building a sales presence and a social selling quality profile will help you in both your professional life and in your personal life in getting the next position, which is really your professional life. There are a lot of tools in the market that do similar things. You're all familiar with Facebook, especially older folks apparently, because it's not used by younger folks. Facebook has certain capabilities and features. A lot of businesses are using that now instead of their web pages. Also Twitter. My presentation is going to focus on the two most popular, the ones that are used for business primarily, which are LinkedIn and Twitter. But a lot of the same rules do apply to using the other tools. So what I'm going to talk about is essentially what social selling is about and how you can apply it. And then I'm going to try to work with you on a couple of tips and techniques to sort of improve your own social profile, which will help you be more effective. So I'll talk about that as we go. Any questions first? Is that, okay. So that's me, and that's what we're talking about. Sales has changed over the years, and in particular in the last few years, the whole idea of social selling has gotten to be much more an accepted practice. At SAP, where I work, it's a large international software firm, if you haven't heard of it. It's one of the biggest providers of on-premise and now on the cloud software for managing businesses. So ERP systems, MRP systems, and things like that. And you know, as the technology's changed, we're changing our product mix. Traditionally, we've been selling to large enterprises because that's the kind of company like a GE or IBM that would use a big enterprise package, and those have been our primary marketplace. Today, we're now selling cloud products, which are making our products accessible to smaller businesses. And that gives us a challenge in the sales force of how do you get to these people. So traditionally, you would buy a product like a Hoover's database or D&B reports, and you would scan them and get information about companies. And you would try to find the key executives in those companies, and you try to figure out how you could reach those people when you call them. And you try to get a meeting, and then you try to sell them your product. That's the traditional method. Not very effective anymore. Email is now, you know, not even, people get so much email that nobody's going to answer your email. Your customers, as I say in the slide, they're pretty much swamped. I mean, they're not going to answer emails. They're not going to take random phone calls from people they don't know. They'll screen you. So we're finding that social networking gets you through. What social networking is, in essence, the whole point of this talk is, if you want to get to a key decision maker in another company, that could be a hiring person or it could be a buyer of your product, the best way to get in is with a warm introduction. And that's what social networking is about. Build a network, somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who can introduce you and get you involved, get you in there. So what we're going to talk about is how you build your social network and what a social network will help you do and how it'll help you in your career. So it's not just if you're looking for a job, it's also if you're looking to build a business. So entrepreneurs should be, you know, understanding this. Whether or not you need the full-blown tools that I use might not be necessary. A lot of the stuff is free. A lot of the information is available on the internet free. And we'll talk about some of those things as well. You could build your own social reputation without paying for anything, just time. So your time is money. Okay? One thing I wanted to tell you, top companies nowadays are using the LinkedIn tool for most of their recruiting. That's not on my slides, but, or it might be mentioned later. LinkedIn has 3 different premium tool products. One is for job hunters, and we will talk about that, and I can give you some examples of whether or not it's worthwhile for you to pay for that if you were job hunting. The second one is for salespeople, which is what I've been working with. And the third one is the recruiting module. And that one is very important to people who are on the other end trying to job hunt. The way that people do their recruiting, at my company, and I know IBM, the way they do most of their recruiting, 99%, is through LinkedIn. And as a matter of fact, for internal promotions, when you're looking for your own internal skill database, even though we sell the products that build, this is almost sacrilege, but it isn't really, even though we sell products that support HR processes, human resources or capital development, capital management products, LinkedIn has fresher information than our own systems. So we're building interfaces to LinkedIn to get that information. So if you're job hunting, you've got to know that these people are using these tools because you won't even be noticed unless you're using those tools. So part of what we're going to show you today is how to, you know, be found. And it comes down to something simple that anyone who's done any work with websites knows. It's keywords. So we'll talk about where you get the keywords, how do you find them, and things like that. But that's the essential part of that. So the question is, on the page here, our resumes passe. And I actually kind of think they are, because I'm finding that most companies that accept paper resumes are scanning them into systems so they can be electronically processed. The number of applicants for a single job posting on a newspaper like the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, is phenomenal. You need a computer to process it. So the basic thing that they do is they scan them and they use their systems, our systems, to do that. So sending a paper resume is almost passe. As a matter of fact, I think business cards might be a little bit passe too. You will all have my LinkedIn address or my email, and I'm going to invite you all to join me on LinkedIn, and you'll have my full credentials. You'll know everything about me, and I'll know all about you. I'll be able to scan about you as well. You don't need my business card. You've got my contact information. So business cards are somewhat passe too. Although traditionally, you know, especially in other cultures, it's polite and you do it. And I have business cards, so I haven't gotten rid of them completely. But I don't have a lot of them. And as I mentioned before, LinkedIn is used to fill internal job positions as well. And even if, you know, I was going to say, one of the other things is bottom bullet. Even if they don't find you on a search, you know, and you contact a company, most employers will check you out on LinkedIn and Facebook and other. They'll Google you essentially to see who you are. You know that, and Google picks up LinkedIn as one of the first things. So one way or the other, you need to have a good profile. So we're going to talk about this in a lot more detail, but I'm going to give you the quick run through of what helps make a good profile. The first thing is to have a good headshot. And you can read the slides yourself. Everyone can see the slides, by the way, I'm not blocking them. Make sure, the last point, I'm going to pick this up from a number of different sources and sort of compile. I stole from the best. Well, what I thought was the best. Current photo, one of the points about that is if you are older, like I am, and you present a picture of you taken 20 years ago, you might look a little bit more robust and have a little bit, I might have a little bit more hair and whatever, a few pounds less. But when I go on that job interview, it'll be a big disappointment. So don't do any false advertising. Look good, look professional. Your profile, it should be what you would like to look like on a job interview. So make sure that you're dressed appropriately, you're in a pretty much plain background, not carrying your cat, you know, things like that. You want to look professional. This is not Facebook. Facebook, you can do whatever you want. I would also recommend that you not do anything too unprofessional on Facebook, because a potential employer will be checking you out on Facebook, I assure you. So bad postings are not a good thing. And there have been lots of stories in the news about people who sort of screw themselves out of good jobs by a little bit excessive drinking on Facebook. And that's not really fair, but it's unfortunately reality. But consider that LinkedIn is a professional arena, and you want to look professional. So I wear a suit for this presentation. If I were one of you as a guest, I wouldn't wear a suit. I'm in this role, I wear a suit. When I'm a guest, I wear different clothes. It's the same, same kind of thing. The next part is we're going to get specifically, I'm going to talk mostly in this part about LinkedIn. So in LinkedIn, the first section, I should also interrupt myself. These slides will be available to you on my LinkedIn site. We'll talk about how you do that. But you will have these at your disposal, so there's no need to rush and write everything down, okay? And I'm available by email afterwards, so relax if you miss a point, okay? So the first thing it has is after your name, and we'll look at a LinkedIn profile in a second. Actually, I should probably switch back and forth since we have an internet connection. But the first thing after your name, it has your job title. And most people say, Vice President of Engineering, right? That is not good use of that space. Your very first job will have your job titles. Don't waste that space, although it's what most people do. Don't waste that space with a job title. Instead, say something interesting about yourself that's relevant to it. So say something like, this is what the job I'm seeking, I'm interested in doing X, I've got 20 years experience, experienced executive with so much experience, a student with master's in such and such, now seeking a position in X, Y, and Z. If you're looking for a job, the best advice, especially if you're not currently employed, it's better to actually say that you're looking for the job. There's no disgrace in that. If you're between jobs, there's no disgrace in that. If you're currently employed, you have to be a little bit more discretion, show a little bit more discretion. Do that. So don't hesitate to say you're looking for a next job. And you have to remember, and this is not just with LinkedIn or any of the other tools, resumes are not meant to describe everything you've ever done in your life. That's not your biography. It is an ad piece meant to get you in the door. So sometimes less is more. You want to make sure, and you might want to have different versions of a written resume. It's kind of hard to do with the electronic medium. But what you want to do is have things in there that will be searchable and found by a search engine. So things that make you unique or special are the kinds of things that you want to emphasize on your resume. But you don't want to have that I used, like for example, I've been in the business, in the IT business many, many years, and I've used operating systems that are ancient. I don't even include them on my resume, and I'll show you my LinkedIn profile in a little bit. I don't even include them anymore. I just say 20 years experience, and I only list the first 10. And you don't want to have any gaps, but if you don't show the first couple of years, and nobody's going to look at that. It's just saying miscellaneous jobs in the industry, such and such and that. But nobody really wants to see those details. They're just clutter. But if they build to something that's important, so when I got to be chief information officer of a company, I'm not going to cut that one out no matter what. Until I die, that's going to be on there because that was my highest ranking position. And after that, I was consulting for a long time, and that gave credibility to that. So that's an example of what I would recommend. So remember, the search engine is your audience, not the PA. So that's the key thing, key takeaway. The other thing is, in building a good profile, you want to join the groups. And LinkedIn has groups, blogs, and that you can join up to 50. And I belong to the RPI, a few of the RPI blogs. Those are very useful, okay, because they've got a lot of very good connections, and people warm up to seeing another RPI alum. So that's one of the groups. But I belong to a couple of the professional organizations that are relevant to what I do. And LinkedIn is very good about suggesting to me every once in a while a new group that I might join. I recommend two things about that. One is you should join the groups, actually more than two, but the key two things are to find out what's going on in your industry and to increase your network. Because as I show you, when you start searching and you look at the engine, and your own ability to do outward searching, your network grows by leaps and bounds by your groups more than your personal connections. Groups like that are, if you join the right groups, you get you'll actually have millions of connections. And literally I do. I have 2 million connections for my groups, where I have fewer than 1,000 personal connections, including my coworkers at SAP. So that is a powerful way of reaching a lot of people, so consider that. You learn what's going on, you learn what people are talking about, and the next thing is contribute. Never add anything that's stupid, obviously, and never throw flames. Don't flame anybody, but add in, add value, add a comment, participate in the conversation. It gets you noticed. It also raises your social selling index, which is something I'll tell you about later on. But it makes you look more professional, and it helps you achieve the professional profile. A couple of suggestions I've listed there about how you can introduce yourself. The other thing you can also do is follow companies. If you're job hunting, you should follow the companies that you're most interested in finding out about, just like you would look at their websites. We post positions there first on LinkedIn. We pay for that. So it's a great place to get first advantage in openings. And you want to be noticed by them. So if they're following, if you're following them, you can also set it up that you'll get news alerts about what they're doing and see their jobs quickly. So being first on field advantage, knowing what's going on is really useful. And then the last point is also, if you read an article from some other news source, newspaper, actually yesterday I had an example. I was reading an annual report from IBM, and I thought it was really interesting. I posted it. People do not mind you're taking their information and posting it. You just have to properly attribute it to the author. As a matter of fact, if someone retweets you, that makes you more powerful in the rating scale on Twitter. So it's actually a compliment to take someone's comment. So if you want to reuse what someone says, add some value to it, attribute it to the author, copy the author, they'll be delighted. You'll get, everybody will be happy. It's a win-win-win situation. The other thing that LinkedIn allows you to do is to get recommendations and endorsements. And I'm constantly getting, recommend so-and-so for these skills, recommend, they sort of feed that to you from LinkedIn. I'm going to give you some advice that's sort of contrarian. Obviously, you want to get enough recommendations to support the position that you're trying to take, your skill base. I would eliminate recommendations that don't add to it. He's a great skier. It's nice, it's a real compliment, but if you're not interested in being a professional skier, it probably doesn't belong in your profile, and that's an extreme example. So I would actually eliminate things like that. And the other thing about recommendations, they've always recommended that you try to get a cross-section of people to give you recommendations. You can ask, and people are generally willing to do that. Try to show that if you're an older person, get recommendations from people younger than yourself, because it shows you work with young people well. And if you're the opposite, if you're a young person, try to get recommendations from peers and from older people. Don't discount younger people's thoughts. So that was a really good point. But get rid of endorsements that don't make a lot of sense and don't add to your overall picture. And this is a continuous process, so don't worry if you don't get it right the first time. So one of the things I see when I see profiles on LinkedIn, very often is people just describe their job titles and not really go into a description of that. And that's done largely because they feel that they're not really job hunting and they don't want to give too much away. But that really doesn't help them, and we encourage our people not to do that, to build complete profiles. And the reason for that is really very simple. When someone sends you a LinkedIn message, and I'm sure you've all gotten them, someone sends you a LinkedIn message, what's the first thing you do when you don't know that person? You click on their icon to see who they are, and you look them up, right? Well, think about it the other way. They're going to look you up as soon as you send them a message. You want to look as good as you can. So there you go. You don't want to have a resume that's really bare bones, but you want to have that balance. So we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail later on. This is my original presentation, and I realized that for this group I wanted to supplement it with some additional information, so I sort of tacked it on at the end. You'll get to that in a couple of minutes. A couple of pointers that help you. LinkedIn gives you great tools to add your resume and edit it, do things like that. You can change the order. It doesn't mean you have to have the order the way that they present it. So if you're doing two things simultaneously, and for example, I was on the RIA board, as mentioned, I have that as a job because in reality, I was managing people and projects, and it was a good addition to my CV. But I didn't want that on top of my professional interests, so I wanted that to be sorted lower down. So I can show you later on, if you are interested, I can show you how to move those things around. But you don't have to be stuck by the way that LinkedIn formats your resume. You can change that. You can emphasize, you want to change the positioning because obviously it's like in newspapers, they call it the inverted pyramid. You really want to have the most important information up front, and then the less important information, the background details, later on. Be sure to list certifications and courses that are relevant on your profile, and use only bullets. Do not, and I actually helped someone with a resume, another alum, just over the weekend, don't write these granite blocks of text. Short bullets. People are reading this. Once again, your audience is the search engine, and they don't care. They're looking for keywords. Also, look at the readability. I don't have a slide. Look at the readability index. Make sure that it's readable, even though it's bullets. You can get a readability score very easily. You can Google readability index, and it'll tell you whether or not you're writing something for someone in the 21st grade, whatever that means, as opposed to writing it in the 12th grade. You don't really want to write over the head of your audience, over the heads of your audience. You're all smart people. This group, where did you go to school, right? You don't have to overly impress people. Just write a clear, easy to read resume. And this is one of those cases where less is more. It's more valuable to say something clearly and distinctly about what you do and not get bogged down with jargon. Remember, it's a search engine and then an HR rep who's reading your resume. You don't get to the engineering or science people until after they've screened you. So you want to get through that level of screening first. Let me take a breath for a second. This is more talking than I usually do. So, one of the things that, especially if you're in the job hunting mode, the last bullet is very important. Quantify your results. I managed a budget of $10 million and garnered savings of 35% over 3 years. Numbers, even though it's like how to lie with statistics, numbers carry a lot more weight than they really deserve for non-engineers, and take advantage of that. So if you can, include those kind of numbers. Now I put the proviso in that might not be for people that are not job hunting. I really don't want to boast how much budget I handle at SAP, because my vendors will find out and will be hitting me up for money, and my coworkers will find out that I'm actually running their department, and they're not really happy about that. So we have to delete that from the slide, from the video. But that's not really true, I exaggerate. But you really want to be more tactful if you're permanently employed. So. One of the questions people often ask is whether or not you should have your charitable work, your alumni volunteering work, red and white. Should you include those? And emphatically, yes. Because most employers today, at least, are not looking for grunts who only know how to do one job. They're looking for people with interest in social skills, especially when we talk about social selling and social networking. They want people who can socialize. As an alum of RPI, I can tell you that I've changed my career any number of times, and nothing that I do today even was conceived of when I was in school. So flexibility and the ability to learn from others and to work well with others are skills that are very important in the workplace. Someone who does charity work like I do, that shows you have a heart. It's the kind of person you might want to work with, and that it makes you more attractive. But you also don't want to take it to the extreme that I spend 40 hours a week volunteering at the Red Cross, worthy cause and such, but it sounds like you're not paying attention to your job. So once again, strike a reasonable balance. So, marketing, and this gets back to building your network. If you only have a few connections, if you just joined the network, you're forgiven, but you want to build it up as quickly as possible. Because people with few connections, if you don't have 400 or 500 connections, you look like a novice, and you don't want to look like a novice in this area. It's very easy to get people to accept your invitations. If you have a reasonable resume or profile, most people would like to be attached to you. They're all trying to build their networks as well. So we're all trying to, improve each other's CVs, and by inviting people, I don't think I've had more than a dozen people that have turned me down, and you're not even aware of it. So it doesn't hurt to ask. I probably turned down a number of people that really looked like they were overseas vendors or spammers, so you do have to be selective. But in general, if you're sending an email or a LinkedIn invitation to another professional professional to professional, there's a good chance they'll accept it. So it doesn't hurt to try, but it also builds both of your credentials. So don't hesitate. One of the first places you should look is me and my network, and anybody you know in my network, and each other. And then RPI alumni, join those groups. You've got instant connections. I will accept pretty much any RPI alum into my network. It's just me. I think most other alums feel the same way. So do that. Don't use the generic invitation that is provided. Hey, would like to, I think it's something like, I'd like to join your network, please connect. Write a personal note every time. Believe me, that does wonders. That'll improve your acceptance rate. If you're too lazy to actually say why we should connect, I might not want to connect with you. So if you get, you don't want to look like spam. You all know what spam is. If you just spam people, it's not going to be effective. If you personalize the note, much higher chance of it being accepted. Okay? And that goes along with what I'm going to talk about later about getting introductions to people you're trying to meet. Warm introductions get you a lot further than cold calling. Cold calling is the traditional way of selling. Warm introductions, much more successful, and I really can't go into the details, but we've quantified it by our own internal tests, by piloting social selling. So we've gotten some pretty good results, and it pretty much, not only because our audience now is middle market and smaller businesses, but even with the large companies, a warm introduction. You're more likely to talk to a friend's friend with an introduction than you are to talk to a stranger. Especially when you can see that the person's got decent credentials that we're talking to. So one of the things they suggest, and I'm not too sure about, but I'll give it to you as a thought because I don't know all the answers. Don't tell my family that, especially the kids. You should update, they say you should update your status frequently. They say several times a week. Ask people to give you contacts, to get introductions. If you're job hunting, you should definitely ask. If you want to get a job at GE, use your network to find someone who's at GE that you know and see if they can help you find someone. You'd be amazed how much people want to help. Because when you send one of those emails or LinkedIn in-mails, position it in such a way that you're giving the person an out. Say, I would like very much to talk to so-and-so. Would you be comfortable in introducing me? If not, I'd like to discuss such and such, if you're comfortable. So give them an out. Once again, it's a trick. It's also polite. It's the right way to get people to be more likely to support you in that. And I've gone out of my way to actually write a recommendation to go along with the introduction. So that's not uncommon, and I've had that happen to me as well. So, be very nice about that, and that's being social. And what goes around comes around. If I find someone a job, I've got a friend for life, right? So don't be shy. Ask people for contacts, but be polite in doing it. They say to update your status frequently. I would say if you do it more than once a week, it's annoying. How many people, see that are oversaturated with updates from Facebook? This isn't Facebook. Don't do that. The other thing that you can do, and I'll show you an example or two, is in your profile, you can actually include links, like I'm going to do and have already done, to presentations or white papers of things that you've done, publications that you have that are online that you can share. Just adds to your credibility in both venues in terms of either selling yourself or selling your products. The other thing that they recommend, and it's good, and I'll show you how to do that in the live demo portion of our presentation. I'll show you how to change your personal address so that your email, you can have multiple emails attached to your LinkedIn account, but also LinkedIn allows you to have a direct connection to your LinkedIn profile that you can include in other correspondence. So you can get people to your profile immediately. And I'll show you that on the screen when we do that. So look more professional, great photo, build a great network, join groups that demonstrate your professional interests and your profession and your interests. Write short articles that relate to that. Contribute meaningfully to other people's blogs and comments. And ask for help. Reach out, socialize. Now I'm going to move into another area that's related, especially when you're job hunting, but also in sales. And this is pretty much where I spend a lot of time. One of the things you can look at is their job seeker premium product. It costs, you can look it up online, I think it's like $20 a month or something like that. If you buy it for a year, it'd be like $400 or $500 for the year. I think that's a little bit on the excessive side for most of the things you can do. So I'm not trying to hurt LinkedIn. You might want to get it for a month or two. What it buys you is more in-mails. But also, when you respond to a job that's posted on LinkedIn, your resume goes to the top of the stack or towards with everybody else, so you get a little bit more prominence. And there are a couple of other features, and you can look that up on the LinkedIn site. I'll show you where to look for that. You can see if that would be useful to you. But most of the things that I'm talking about tonight, you can do with the free version of LinkedIn. You can research companies, you can research jobs in those companies, and you can see job postings in those companies. You can also do their advanced search. You can search for industries, you can search within a certain geography, job title, etc. But one of the things that I had said earlier, I'm going to jump ahead, I might come up with a slide with this before. One of the ways that I mentioned about being more successful in getting noticed was to put the right keywords in. One of the ways that I think you could improve your resume is to look at other people's resumes and see what they're doing. So if there's someone who got a job in a company recently that you think would be something you would like, which is something you can find here, look at that resume carefully and see whether or not there's some tricks that you can pull. What are the keywords that they use that you might have missed? So best really, just in this case, steal from the best. Look at other people's resumes and look for opportunities that might improve your own. As I said, it's a continuing iterative process. Hey, it's RPI, right? An iterative process, and you want to improve. So looking at other people's resumes is a good way to improve your own. So do that kind of research. Once again, even if you're professional and not looking for a job, that's a good thing to do. Don't spend your time primarily in job postings, because most of those job postings are going to be swamped with applicants. For companies that do what you're interested in, and try to find people in similar positions and try to reach out to them. So try to find the jobs that aren't being posted. And this is not LinkedIn, this is job hunting 201 from being outsourced any number of times. I've had this course. That is actually very solid advice that I've given. So that's why I passed it along. Don't spend too much time worrying about that. I would say in a typical job hunting scenario, don't spend more than 10 to 15% of your time. It sounds obvious, but filling out those job ads, it's either someone who's just trying to fill their time or trying to build a portfolio of resumes or look busy, and a lot of those jobs aren't for real. A lot of companies post the jobs because of the laws and discriminatory issues and things like that. They want to get a certain, say that they've screened a certain number of candidates, but they already have a job applicant in-house in mind. So don't waste too much time on that. Try to find the jobs that haven't been advertised yet. Try to be the person who all the other, the job description's written to match your resume, and then let everybody else try to catch up to you instead of the other way around. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Anyway, jobs that you find in your network are going to be better jobs, and you've got a higher probability of success in actually being able to capture something that way. So where do you get ideas for these postings that I was telling you should do? So a couple of places you can look are newspapers. You can read the list. Other blogs, especially blogs, zines. company pages on LinkedIn itself, one blog to another blog, on LinkedIn, group to group, and Twitter and Facebook. Okay, but remember to give those attributions to the author. When you're the author, you want to get the attributions too. So now I'm going to focus in on. I'm kind of repeating, but I'm going to try to hone in on improving your profile. So these are the 8 key indicators of a successful, savvy social networker. Let me stop for a second. Are there any questions that I went through a lot of things fast. Anybody want me to go back over anything?
Question, if you have
Sure.
multiple companies that you own, are you better off having 2 separate LinkedIn?
You can't have two separate LinkedIn accounts. If they find out, they'll blow you off.
So list them both.
So try to put them in the same place. You can have them at the same time.
Okay.
And you can do that moving around like you mentioned.
Yeah.
You can do that. And I've done that. When I was consulting, I had my own consulting company, and I listed my clients as consulting positions at the same time.
Okay.
So the way I did it is I made sure that my company was top, and then underneath it was the others. But you can move, that's how you move things around. I will show you how to do that. That's a great question. Yes?
Where does your company advertise its positions?
Where does my company advertise
Yeah.
positions? Actually, they don't do very much advertising. They do some on LinkedIn, and I'll show you. We can take a look and see what they've got. They mostly are proactively scanning LinkedIn for applicants. They don't do a lot of hiring off the street.
Even if someone isn't saying they're looking for a job, they still look for, they headhunt people, or?
Well, SAP in particular, globally, is more. They get applications from their website and from postings that they have on LinkedIn and a couple of other places. They don't spend money on they don't have agencies that they pay for headhunters, traditional headhunters. They don't use them at all anymore. That's changed over the last few years. I found that out when I was really doing my research prior to buying LinkedIn, buying licenses. I bought the Sales Navigator licenses, but I coordinated with our other teams at SAP that were already buying marketing dollars, marketing space, and our HR people. And I learned a lot about what they were doing. And now we're sort of trying to coordinate what we're doing so that we, as a company, we purchase things together and hopefully get better rates and better deals. But I learned that our people are our HR products, which are very good. And I'm not just saying that. Our very good HR products are now allowing, for example, in-house, when I wanted to put my resume on the company's internal system so that I could post for jobs or make myself available as an expert for other people to pull for calls, sales calls. And that's the main use, not job hunting, but so that I'm a resource, as a professional resource to be called on sales calls, for example. I'm a chemist and I might be useful in a call for a pharmaceutical company, for example. LinkedIn had a link which actually, our HR system, human capital management system, had a link to pull my resume from LinkedIn and make modifications to it. I didn't have to retype the whole thing. That was great, because I spent all this effort polishing it in one place. I was able to cut and paste. That's the future. And we see a marriage of what we do and what they do. On the sales side, we do a great job on contact management and who's contacted this client. But LinkedIn has current information about, a new person just got the vice president of engineering in this department of IBM. I would know that from my CRM system because it hasn't been updated that frequently, but LinkedIn has it. But I also know that my advice system will say, hey, I talked to 8 other people in that department. And this is what they're interested in buying. And this is what they bought in the past. LinkedIn would know that. So we see that there's a synergy between the two. Similarly, in the HR world, which I can speak about not as informed, there are some synergies there as well. What we advertise, how people respond. There's a whole rating system. We do all that stuff. LinkedIn doesn't do that. They just provide a number of resumes. We have a whole grading and processing and workflow management of how they go through the whole interviewing process and make it up to employment. And then it takes that information, puts it into the HR system, and the resume that you submitted as an applicant becomes the basis of your professional profile in the company. So less keying, fewer errors, better chance to, and easier for our customers. So now I've just given you a sales pitch for our great products. Okay, so let me, any other questions before I move on? I'm tired of hearing my own voice. I will go with kids. Thank you. Okay, so this better work. There's resume 1. And there's resume 2. Anybody guess which one's better? Yeah, pretty obvious. So let's look at a couple of things why the one on the left is a better resume. Okay? What did it do? Oh, I backspaced. I'm sorry. My mistake. A, technology. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, let me talk about a couple things. I can just talk to it. And I'll give you a live demo as well because we do have time. So, let's see if the pointer works. Oh, good. Okay. So when I mentioned before that you could put your links in here, is this readable here? But you can create your own personalized link right here that will get right to this page. And then also, in your contacts, connect to this person, you can add into this block contact information. You can put your email address, you can put in your website if you're working for a company. Like I have my company's website, information about me and other connections. This is stuff that I've done. You can also put in, then your background is your summary. Notice here, his headline is helping enterprise companies leverage cloud computing solutions to grow their business, as opposed to sales executive in XYZ company. It's hard to beat, I'm sorry, it's like an eye chart. Obviously, it's a lot more attractive. If Josh was sending me an email or an in-mail message and wanted to contact me, I'd be more likely to talk to him than to Josh number 2. Same person, different profiles. This will be in the deck so you can look at this more carefully. Okay. So, here are the key indicators, and once again, don't take notes, you'll have this. Okay? What makes you look better, and I'm going to talk about each of these 8 bullets. Branding, optimize for search, control, supporting collateral, personal connection points, group involvement, having a robust network, and being engaging. These sound like dating profiles too, don't they? And you know what? Oh, by the way, this gentleman, that's actually Jeff Weiner, who's the CEO of LinkedIn. He snuck his own little picture in his collaterals. So let's see if they actually took this little here. 85% of the people looked at the picture first. Okay, so really important to have a good picture. And I think they talk about what makes a good picture in a second. Right, so you'll have this. Okay, this one's hard to tell, but it's blurry. That's not a good picture. That's actually what they did. They made it blurry, and it was too small. This one, problem is it's poor lighting. This one's a group photo. Now this might work if you're applying for a job at Board, but otherwise, not good. Unless you are a cow. This one, I think he's holding beers. Now, that's RPI, so maybe, but inappropriate. And then finally, no picture. Okay, so I had to have some humor here. So what you want to do is, obviously here. Now this is Twitter, okay? Now in Twitter, you want to be human, so I did mention that LinkedIn is not the entire universe. So you want to be human, and you don't want to seem like one of those people that just throws peanuts from the back of the room and complains about everything. So you want to sound human and real. You want to be consistent in your brand. And think about all of this as branding. You own your personal brand. You don't want to do anything in your life, including in social media, to ruin that brand. You are the brand managers of your brand. No matter what you do in your career, you're adding to that brand, adding or detracting. For Madoff, you've certainly detracted, but his brand got him very far. And that's how he's so successful. So it could work in bad things, but try to use the same picture from one media as the other so that you're recognizable. So this piece of advice I thought was really interesting, that's why I brought it forward to you. I would take your LinkedIn photo and use that to make your avatar in Twitter, and then refer to your Twitter account in LinkedIn and vice versa. Make sure that your Twitter account has that link that I told you how to make or where to put it. So cross-fertilize, build your network both ways. Twitter is better for certain things than LinkedIn. And there's the Twitter photo specs. Once again, you'll have these slides so you don't have to copy the details. So this is B2B buyers, because this is for selling, but I would also tell you that buyers and HR people are using LinkedIn very heavily. So this is reiterating something I said before. I find myself, despite my better thoughts, I'm on LinkedIn every day. I didn't think I would. I'm not on Facebook more than once a month, and that's if I get an email that tells me my nephew or niece is doing something really cool, or my kids are doing something. So I'm not really following it as, but the kids were, on it all the time as their primary contact. That was their homepage when they opened up their computer. I don't do that. My classmates seem to, though. Class of '74, they're all on Facebook. Maybe they're all watching their grandchildren. It seems to be populated. I mean, Facebook has bought other companies now because they felt that they were getting too old. So it's kind of interesting. LinkedIn is doing very well. Oh, I should point out one statistic that I didn't mention before. I took a course in training for the sales training, sales navigator training, back in January, and I was told that at that time, LinkedIn had 250 million subscribers worldwide. 2 weeks ago, I heard another announcement. Jeff was on TV, and he said, well, we have 275 million users. I can tell you that that growth of 20 million is pretty much what we projected. That's getting to be a large percentage of the population of the professional working world. And when I launched this, I thought that our biggest user base would be the United States and Europe. And that's true, but the adaptation rate, or the adoption rate in Asia Pacific is amazing. It is much bigger than I thought. So this is a global phenomenon. In cultures where you don't think that giving out personal information would be acceptable, they're starting to accept it and like this tool. So it's this is an international phenomenon. And I would tell you that there are competing products in Zing and a few others in Europe, but even Europeans who are under data protection kind of regimes, people who really want to protect their personal data a lot more than we do, they're using it and they're putting up information about themselves. So this is really, it might be a passing fad. I've been through a lot of passing fads, but I think it's going to be quite a few years. So it's really worth our considering it, riding the wave, surfing the wave while we've got it, and then look for the next one when it's, when it starts to be dying down. So a couple of things that you can do with the tools, free tools. Take a look at how many people are looking at you. You can see how many people are looking at your profile. That is a very important measure of how well your profile is written. If you come up in searches, especially if you're job hunting, you should show up a few times. So if you're not getting that, you've got to tweak it. So it's kind of a feedback mechanism that you can get. Take a look at how many people are looking at your resume. And if it's just people that you invited or sent emails to, by the way, you'll see like 100% of the people that you send, pretty much 100% of the people that you send notes to, unless they already know you, they're going to check you out. So that's a very good tool. criteria of your keywords. Think of profiles as web pages. Identify keywords for your profile. Optimize your profile to make it as easily readable as possible, and then track the results, and then refine your, what your assumptions were. Scientific method in action. It seems to us to be pretty much in action. Okay, this is actually considered to be a good one. It's not a very good picture, but this is an example of optimization. Custom headline with keywords that are identified in it, pointing, you can see what we're pointing to. Good summary, skills and expertise, checking off what your keys are, and then going through your experience and interests. So optimize your profile to be best picked up by the search engine. So it's really just repeating what I said earlier. Tracking results, said that several times. Your Twitter account, stay focused on keywords, key things there. Actually, more I can say there too. Make sure all these things are consistent with what you have in the other media, and that you're once again building a professional profile that you want to, not be embarrassed by later on. Okay. And Twitter does allow you to have multiple accounts. If you want to spam people and say nasty things, create a phony account for that. And Facebook lets you do that too. So, doesn't please. You can control who sees what. So say you're full-time employed and you don't want people to see things. You can make it so that your resume profile cannot be seen by your current employer or anybody working for your current company. So that is done in the privacy settings. I'll show you, remind me if I don't do it, I'll show you where you can change those things. And that's where you can also change your name and change some other factors. But you can make it so that you're not going to be embarrassed, hopefully. But if you publish it, it's going to get there sooner or later. But theoretically, you can prevent it from getting out that you're looking for a job. I would still be careful. Keep your profile public. Refine the notifications, so you're not getting too many. Get notifications from different groups. You can actually decide which group sends you a daily message and which sends you a weekly message, because you don't want to be your worst enemy in the spamming department. You can spam yourself crazy if you join too many groups. So getting a weekly summary is often good enough. Although if you're job hunting and that's what you're doing full time, tune it up. You can filter it out later. You can always quit the groups too. Okay? You want to get your name mentioned. You want to get you want to be notified whenever you're mentioned. That definitely you want to know about. Okay. Kinds of documents that you want to do, supporting collateral. You can put in presentations that you do, things you've done for work. You can put your thesis up. Don't be too too academic, but I think you might want to put things that are relevant to showcase what you really do. You don't want to give away company secrets by any stretch, but you want to have some documents, like me doing this kind of presentation. My company's perfectly happy for me to have that up. It's volunteer work and it's relevant to what I really do. So that's a good example. Yes, please.
Explain that a little better. Supporting collateral.
Collateral, so documents, the things that you produce, you can actually insert into your profile videos, like for example, the video that we're doing now. You can put in presentations you've done, if it's a movie file, document, PDF document, Word document, or PowerPoint document. You can actually have a link in your profile to samples of my work, or things that I find very interesting, an article that I thought was really important. I wouldn't just put all sorts of trivial things, but something that's really relevant to your profile. You can do that. So that makes you more interesting. Also drives traffic to your, you can publish it, on Twitter and say, come to my site. Yes?
Do you think that it would be interesting to have a video profile?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
Do
you.
you think it would be interesting to have a video profile?
I would not have as the primary. I might have a video profile, but video interviews, people have mixed opinions about those. But a presentation where you're talking about an interesting professional subject, that would serve the purpose of a video profile. But I wouldn't stand here talking about my childhood and my career development over the years. I would be talking about a professional subject. And then it would show how graceful you are on camera, unlike some of us. Any other questions? Good. I long for questions. So, video testimonials, there you go. White papers, case studies, especially this is important for my salespeople. Links to our corporate professional collaterals. You know, if you're selling HANA, which is one of our new products, it's an onboard database device, and it allows very large memory, and therefore the entire huge database, terabytes of data, can exist on a chip. And that chip, or that board with the chip, can then process everything in memory rapidly, so it's much more efficient than traditional databases on disk drives, even fast disk drives. And I'm not trying to sell you the product, but I'm just saying that it's an interesting thing technically, so having information about that would be very interesting to someone who's trying to sell that, to give them a glimpse of what we're talking about. So company collaterals is very useful for people in the sales area. Similarly, if you're looking for a position, you know, something about the work that you've done or a presentation you've done in the past, it does serve to enhance your professional stature. So obviously, it makes you look good, use it. If it doesn't, don't.
Could you elaborate on solution briefs?
Solution brief is a term that we use. It's customer A has a problem. We have the solution. Here's how we met customer A and solved their problem. That's a brief and solution briefs.
So this is all,
Sales.
I mean, let's see. I was thinking of a personal resume.
Problems that I've solved.
Okay.
Went to work as a consultant at company XYZ. Their accounting system was in complete shambles. In 3 months, I was able to straighten out the books, get them running correctly, hire my replacement, and end my engagement with high level of satisfaction.
Does this mean this is, in some senses, it's all an extended resume?
Yes,
That sounds more like a resume.
professional profile. And this is a resume. But if you're a salesperson, your profile is why you're a person I might want to talk to if I were having this problem. And if you're only selling that kind of solution as a consultant, for example, having a couple of case studies, that's pretty much, a case study might be more detailed, have more facts. Briefs are, this is how we approach these problems. So it's a brief case study. Similar, but not exactly the same. I gave you the 50,000 foot to apply. We're only halfway through the bullets, so I got to get moving. I don't want to keep it too much longer. So, basically they're saying try to make sure that you, in your next section, you're supporting collateral, use it to support what you've said in your resume itself. Building connection points, they use the analogy of a cocktail party. You're going to be a lot more approachable if you're friendly, smiling, interesting. I'm not really that good at cocktail parties, so this is not the best analogy, but what could you, if you want to engage someone as a customer or as a potential employer, if you know something about them, you can engage in conversation. So before I reach out to a contact, potential customer, potential employer, I check their resume out, their profile out, and learn about them. And I don't mind people checking me out because they find commonalities. I had a headhunter call me a few days ago, finding my resume as is. Wasn't looking to hire me, fine. But he wanted to know if I knew anybody with certain SAP skills. When I looked at his resume, I noticed that 5 of his connections, first level connections, were people that I'd worked with. So I was willing to talk to the gentleman. Never heard of him before, never heard of his company, but I replied to his message. He came with good credentials, my personal experience. So looking at their background tells you where you might have a connection. So connections, looking for a job, modern, connection, you know somebody, interested in a sport, someone that's a CASA, Court Appointed Special Advocate, will get my attention. By looking at my resume, you can see these things. Look at commonalities. The algorithm in the 3x3 rule is you can see people your connections, their connections, and their connections. And when you want to get an introduction, LinkedIn will tell you who you know that knows that person. So, how many groups are there in LinkedIn? There are over 500,000 groups. How many? You can only be a member of 50. I think I belong to about 20. Here. Okay. So I've kind of told you this before, and I'm going to go through these rapidly, and you'll have these slides. But why is group membership important? Well, first of all, it helps you connect. You learn what's going on. You can establish yourself as a thought leader, which is the ultimate that we're looking to do. And I'll step back for a second. In my rollout of the Sales Navigator tool, which is the enhanced or premium sales product, first thing we're trying to do is get people to be really good at prospecting, looking for leads. The next thing we're looking for them to do is to become contributors, to become thought leaders. And we're not going to do that with everybody because a lot of people aren't really that good at writing this kind of medium. And we also don't want our entire sales board blogging the same information to everybody else. It gets what they call the echo chamber effect, bounces off the walls. So we're probably going to select a key group of individuals and have them as designated bloggers. But adding on and adding comments, something everybody can and should do. So if you're job hunting, you should probably participate a little bit more if you have the time. But make sure that it's something that makes you look better. Okay. And one of the things I mentioned is, my groups gave me close to 2 million connections. That's amazing. I don't know which one of those groups is that big. I'll have to look at my groups, but yes.
How does a group give you a connection?
Every member of the group, so RPI alumni has several thousand people. Every one member of that group is someone that you can contact directly.
Oh, I see. You still have to contact them, but it gives you.
You can see them. You can see their profiles. Yeah, you're connected to them. They're a first level connection. So my group member and the people I personally invited are my group, or my groups. So the members of these blog communities or groups, or communities, those are, so I've got 2 million people that I can reach directly through those 20 groups that I belong to. This is basic stuff on hashtag 101. How to categorize your tag, make it sweet, make it sweet tag. I think most of you who do Twitter can teach me a few things about this. Look at the younger end of the spectrum. I'm just learning. Follow a conversation, create a conversation. That's what hashtags are about for those of us who haven't really been doing that much on Twitter. So, and I think I'm getting to, we're wrapping up here. Having a big network, large network, makes it look like you have some authority, people respect you. Also means you send out a lot of emails. And makes you sound credible, and that's the whole thing that you're trying to do, is look credible in any position. That's what we want to do in life, is look more credible. That's why we went into the right schools. That's why we work so hard. We want to look credible for everything we do, not just professionally, but personally too. And personal request is going to get you a much higher response rate. These are their statistics, 33 times. And when to reach out to people, contacting people, focus on event-based requests. I think you can sort of look people up by their signatures and such. This is all pretty much straightforward. And LinkedIn has people you may know. They try to build your network for you. LinkedIn wants to have more connections. It makes them a stronger network. and they're encouraging you to do a better job. So you can play with that. Who to follow, Wizards, the same thing in Twitter, trying to suggest based on what you're doing already, who you might want to reach out to. And Outlook has a similar plugin for LinkedIn. And I've already spoken about this. You want to do updates that are engaging. You want to sound brilliant. You want to stay top of mind. The job might not be open today, but it might be open next week. And if you're top of mind, you might be the first person they think. And the job could be purchasing software. It could be hiring a consultant or hiring an employee. And it enhances your authority. You become a thought leader. You also read what other people are doing. Therefore, you actually become a thought leader. So it's not just image, it's reality. And oops, okay. Interviews, you're more likely to get an interview if you get a word introduction. And that's it. What I can do, if you're interested, I could actually go and show you a couple things that I did. You want to pause for questions or anything?
Can you add, you know how you had like Facebook, can you add LinkedIn, talk about it on your email? People can directly connect to your LinkedIn.
No, how to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I can turn this up for something good. I didn't have anything embarrassing in my screen. That's good. Of course, my screen has changed here because of the format, so I don't think I can't find my browser. That's the funny thing. Hold on. There it is. I don't automatically go to the. Okay, so this is my homepage. My homepage on LinkedIn has information from the blogs and from the stories I'm interested in. I'm not interested in tuning in and looking at my resume every day. This is stories. This is people who have. You get the notices that people have changed their profiles, got new jobs, and things like that. And this gives me, these stories in one place. Looking at my profile, and you're all welcome to, well, first of all, I can see who's looked at my profile recently. Wow.
Is yours different because it's premium?
Who's looked at it?
No.
Yeah.
What we see, is it?
I'll show you what the differences are. In this part, no, nothing new.
Okay.
Actually, anything that's different in mine will say in a gold box. I'll show you those in a minute if you're interested. So my profile. Okay. So when people have endorsed me, I can accept that or not. So what I've done is I say what I do to show you about editing my contact information. I just click on that box, and there are my email addresses, and I can change. Instead of saying my website, I can actually put in a name, and this will actually go to the SAP website. And then more about me is my personal website. It's probably got my resume. And I allow people, first level connection can see this and they can actually contact me and send me a direct email. Okay.
So somebody can't see that until you send it?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, you can also change that. So let me change it, show you how to change the privacy settings. Now, what's interesting is because of the screen formatting, I kind of lost part of my screen. So I just have to jog all over. But if you go to this section over here, want to get over the icon over here, it should show my face, but it's sort of not showing the whole screen. Sorry, it's sort of cut off the corners. But there's an icon here that's the small version of my face. You can go into, do this. Sorry about this. Really? Wow. Let me just hover over for a second. I apologize. There are, okay, privacy and settings. That's where you can change your primary email address. You can add that. You can change all those, flip those switches as far as who can see what, and you can play around with that. There are a lot of features that you can do for some fine tuning. How often you're notified. That's privacy and settings. If you have a Team Link account, that's what I have. That's how I manage all the invitations to the team. The sales executive account is the enhanced sales product that I'm rolling out to my team. I can change it so that it's in French or German, and my colleagues in those countries have everything in their languages. Job postings, you can actually post jobs here, and I'm not sure exactly where they show up. I think they show up in different groups, and you can manage those. Frankly, I haven't played with that at all. So when you're going to do a search, so let me go back to my resume for a second. So I try to follow my own advice, and my LinkedIn email address this is the connection that gets you right to my email, and it happens to be the same as my Twitter account. So LinkedIn.com, Phil Lurie. That's it, and you can see that, right? And then there's my summary. And this is an example. This is the tips for using LinkedIn for the salespeople. And I think later on, I'm going to have my experience. This is my current job. I can add more information in there. There's my last job. There's some references to it. And as I said before, there's my company, and then there's a consulting assignment that was at the same time. And then my companies show up here. Publications, this is actually going to be replaced with this How to Sell Yourself with Social Networking. This is the old version. I'll replace that right here with this version. There are the endorsements, my education, and then my interest. And actually, volunteer organizations find me. They search through this to see if people are interested in doing certain things. And that's about it on my side. So now I'll show you what you would be doing if you're looking for a company. So you can go in and look at jobs, which I don't think I'm going to show any because I didn't set any parameters. So it gives you a search engine so you can look for jobs. These are companies that they think might match up with me. They've been sending me job notices, but I haven't really been paying very much attention. I'm too busy. I'm happy. But you know, these are jobs that they think might be available, and they're in my network.
Are those jobs the ones you say are oversubscribed and don't worry about them?
Yes, I believe so. That's what I've been led to believe, and I think so. So under interest is the thing that's more important. So I look at companies. You can add a couple of companies that you're following, and they give you updates about what each of those companies are doing. And there's a little bit of information about SAP. I follow SAP and want to see what they're saying. I'm also following IBM, and I'm following a couple of other. I'm following LinkedIn, and I'm getting notices about them every day. And there are a number of services you pay a lot of money for that give you these kind of daily updates. You know, to tell you that IBM stock is going to go up. You see these things. You know, the companies that I'm looking at for investment purposes, I'm tracking this way too. You can do the same kind of thing, by the way, with Google Alerts. Free LinkedIn, Google Alerts. I'm trying to weigh the difference. At one point, one's better than the other, then they enhance it. You know, so it's a great race because they're both improving. So there are free services, as I said, that if you're searching for a job or making contacts, both of these are good tools. There are other tools that are very expensive database tools that have information about companies, like Hoovers is one traditional, and I've been looking at a number of those recently. But for most people's purposes, they're not really necessary because LinkedIn has the most current information. But you know, if you're doing a marketing campaign, there are specialized tools that help you, do that. So you can follow companies. You can create a company page if you're running your own business, and then more interestingly, there's Pulse, which are news articles, and there's some things about schools that you're following, companies and groups. And these are the groups that I belong to. And it tells you what's going on in each of those groups. And I've got 44 out of my 50. I want to know what's on CASA. I've contributed quite a bit in that. Like companies, and there's my class reunion. They haven't really done too much. They haven't accepted me yet. administrator of about 2 or 3 groups from Rensselaer, so I understand the person who's doing it isn't really paying attention. But I laugh that I've been accepted in my reunion class, and I keep reminding on our reunion calls that they haven't gotten it yet. I gotta get some comment in. So these are questions that came up in my groups. They've changed the formats, and actually they keep trying to modernize it and make improvements to it. So now all the key blogs are coming into one place, so you can see this. So there's no mention of this wonderful talk today here, you know. I was hoping that would show up in the blog. So when you get into a specific group, so I'll show you, let's go to the Rensselaer. They have jobs, they have postings, and things of interest. And this is one of the ones where I think I'm going to be administrator, so I'm really bad. And this one's very interesting, and I recommend. Wow, I did post it. I lied. There you go. So, for an example. So I didn't get any. I got one comment. 2 comments. So, hey Phil, keep quiet. That's not a good comment. Any other questions about things I should show you? I mean, I've given you basically the high level view. It's really, you're all welcome. Please join mine. Yes.
Can you show us how to change the order on our profile of what shows on top and what
Sure.
shows on the bottom?
Yeah. Actually, you remind me, there's one other thing I want to show you. Very importantly, this search. You can search for people. So, who's got a profile I don't mind me? Okay, let's see if I find you. Are we linked already? First one? Oh. Starting to make a comment. Let me delete this. I can usually do better when I'm not standing above it and with a mouse that isn't working too well. Okay. That you? No.
It's just the
Right.
One more.
Jessica McLaughlin.
Yeah, that looks, that looks better, so match the picture. Oh, yeah. Okay, I know how you were listening. So, I can edit you, but that's one of the important things. You can search on people, and you can search on companies, and then there's the enhanced search. And this is where I get into the power tools, you have to be careful. So I can see people you can't see, but essentially, I can search on, these are the, when I'm doing a search, these are my first and second level connections, plus the group members. And you can see I have 772 first level connections right now. And they, thanks to them being pretty active, 473,000 second level connections. Those are my first connections. And my groups are now at 1,916,000. It's a whole lot. 2 million things, basically. Yeah, 1,981,618. There you go. I need those comments. It's late. So that's amazing. I just found it amazing. And then this is what our enhanced tool does. It gives us a bigger universe, and then it gives me additional search criteria. You can search on all of these criteria right now. You can pick a company and find out who you know at IBM. Just search there. This is all under the advanced search capabilities. This is just the regular search. In this magnifying glass, you get to it. You can't search on these criteria, but you can do, these criteria here. So this is what the extra license buys you. Okay. But once again, for most purposes, you don't need it. And say I want to talk to, it's going to be hard for me to find someone, but say there's somebody I want to talk to that's like a multiple, actually like use one of my first level connections. Okay. Say I want to find someone in my second level, and I want someone to introduce me to, why am I not saying, if I want someone to introduce me to this person, I click on this person. Actually, it tells me how I'm connected to that person. But it also will come up with a number of people that I'm connected to that I might be able to use to get connected to see information, I can see this person's contact information, because it's a first level connection. So I can get an email address. But I would probably send the LinkedIn in message first, because they get higher, they get higher attention today. People aren't getting spammed by them. So a message from LinkedIn from somebody is more likely to get open than a message from someone we never heard of. Also because they can check you out. So let me get back to Jessica's question, which is, let me go back to my profile, and edit my profile. It's gonna be this very carefully. Okay, what you can do is you can add positions, you can also juggle positions. And if you're doing this, you can just, with this, you can just move this guy around. You can just pull it up or pull it down. You just cut and paste.
So those blocks,
Yeah, moves and blocks. Exactly. So you can edit each block, or you can move the blocks. And it's very straightforward, just play with it. And there are instructions. The other thing you might want to do, if you can get to this screen, if I can get there. That's me. It will tell you if you want to upgrade, if you go to upgrade your account, which is underneath here, there it is. It tells you what the enhanced LinkedIn premiums and what I'm using. For recruiters, this is the recruiting package. You can actually see what they're seeing. And for job hunters, job seekers, they have tools, and this tells you what it costs and what you get for your money. Yes?
What is your opinion of LinkedIn Premium? Is it worth the extra?
Well, the LinkedIn premium for sales, I spent a very large amount of money of my company's money to invest in it and to train people how to use it. So we found it very valuable. For job seekers, I have mixed opinions. It depends. I might not use it the whole time. I think most of the things you can do with it, when you're job hunting, you usually don't have a lot of money to throw around. So I don't know if it's the best purchase that you can make. But here's what they say you get. They rise you to the top as a featured applicant. When they do the search, you come to the top of the list. It helps you rate yourself against the other applicants. It shows you who the other applicants are for a job that they posted, which you wouldn't see otherwise. You can get more in-mail messages, and you can see more than, I think you normally only can see the last 3 people that searched your profile. It gets you up to a larger number. So depending on what you're going to pay, you want to buy $20, you get, this. And you can take a look. $30 a month and $50 a month. For $600 a year, that's what you get extra. So take a look at yourself and kind of make your call. Personally, I think I can do a lot of this stuff myself, but I'm not desperate. I've been looking for a while. So sometimes having the extra edge is worth the money. It's really a personal call. It's a good product. I don't want to demean it. It's just a matter of personal judgment of whether or not it would be valuable to you, or do you have other means of doing it.
That might depend on your network too. You might be very well connected.
Right.
And not even need LinkedIn.
Right, but actually having the extra search criteria kind of helps. Also, it has the fact that you have a badge that says you're a premium user. You can show that, not show it. I don't know if that helps or not. They say it does. I'll take it as their word. No, I believe them. I think, I don't know. I'm not that much of that great a marketer to know whether or not. Any other questions? Because now I finished what I wanted.
Well, obviously, you can still go on too long with your resume, but I bet your profile will be on one page.
At least a page and a half. Go look at it, join up. Just find Phil Lurie or Phil Lurie, and
I was just wondering if you're free to put more, because they can always stop.
No, you can put a lot on there. I strongly recommend against it, but you can.
Oh,
do
that's
it.
right, you said minimum.
Keep it short. Yeah. I've only got the last 15 years. I don't go much beyond 15 years. Being a technologist from 1985 isn't really. I can program an Apple II. Okay, I wrote BASIC. Okay, great. Where's my C++? And that's even outdated. Well, thank you. If there are no other questions, Rob, I'm glad
All the
to.
Ken Brayton ones are contacts.
Yes,
Seriously?
not on LinkedIn, but I actually was in a movie with Kevin Bacon. Yes, he was in Wall Street. He had a good part, and I was a supporting person in the movie Wall Street on Exchange. So yes, I have 1 degree of separation from Kevin Bacon. I met him before he was a star, many, many years ago. Yes, that's a funny question. That I actually have the answer to.
Well, thank you very much. Phil's last name is Lurie, so
Right.
spell it right if you're looking for him on
Yeah, you
LinkedIn.
won't find me if I'm not spelling it correctly. I'm also in the RPI, so you can find me in the RPI blogs. And also, I am willing to spend some time if people want to have you look at your personal profiles, give you some advice on how to apply these things and sort of let you, I would recommend that you get this, make sure that you all have this available to you on my profile. I'll update the one that's there now. I'll have that there tomorrow. It's going to take me until about 11:30 to get home, so tomorrow morning I'll update it. So you'll have all those hints, those 8 hints. Do that. And do not hesitate to send me an email. I'd be glad to review your profile with you or your regular resume. It's part of the process that we're trying to help alums and students, future alums, be more successful. And those of us who've been looking at a lot of resumes have been disappointed in what we're seeing from the high quality people coming from this institution, and we'd like to do our little bit and try to help you improve that. So teach you the tricks, maybe you can help other alums as well. So my pleasure.
All right, thank you. Thank you.